Wader scrapes are a simple but effective way of enhancing a habitat for wading birds on your land. They provide some excellent insect habitat which provides a food source for both adult waders and their chicks. The scrapes will attract damselflies, dragonflies, craneflies, water boatmen and beetles. Scrapes will be used by species such as snipe, redshank and lapwing. A wader scrape is, quite simply, a relatively shallow excavation in the ground which will hold water mainly during the spring and early summer. People occasionally confuse the function of a wader scrape with that of a farm pond. But whilst we would expect a pond to retain water permanently, a wader scrape is quite different. Being shallow, a scrape will only retain water at certain times of the year and for a limited period. The water level will fluctuate with time, and this is what is desired. If the wader scrape is created properly and has shallow margins around its edge, the fluctuating water table will create what's known as a drawdown zone around its edge. This is a shallow muddy area which can either be underwater or exposed to the air. The drawdown zone can be extremely rich in insect life and create a useful habitat for amphibians. Insects can have very intricate life cycles, and some will take advantage of the muddy areas when they're exposed to the air, while others will utilise them while they're underwater. It's the profusion of insects which has the knock-on benefits for waders, as they rely on insects as a food source throughout their lives, and especially as chicks and fledglings. The drawdown zone can also provide a good habitat for different semi-aquatic plants, which further enhances the habitat for insects. Whilst a small amount of vegetation around the scrape is desirable, we don't want large areas of dense soft rush, as these can provide cover for predators and deter waders from using scrapes. Scrapes can be created quite easily with a relatively small excavator or a backactor, such as a JCB. They need to be located away from tall vegetation such as trees, woodlands and hedges, as these provide cover and ambush points for raptors. Avoid overhead power lines for the same reason, as well as digger safety. Predators will also use dense rushes as cover, so whilst a small amount of rushes in a field can provide cover for waders and their chicks, large patches should be controlled to keep the area open. Look for naturally low-lying areas in the field which have a tendency to sit wet anyway, and especially during the wader breeding season of spring into early summer. Do not create scrapes in species-rich grasslands or established wetland areas of high wildlife value. The scrapes should be in flat parts of the field where the birds can have good sight lines to warn them of approaching predators. Scrapes can be of any size, but generally 20 metres squared is considered the minimum surface area to be effective. The more irregular you can make the scrape, the better, as a wavy edge offers more diversity. This also offers an opportunity for the digger operator to be more creative. The scrape should be no more than 45 cm deep towards the centre, and it's vital that the edges are gently sloping to maximise the drawdown zone area. You must ensure that the excavated material is either removed from site, used in low areas to create a dam, or spread thinly and flattened out as much as possible. Bankings or bunds around the scrape will not allow birds to see approaching predators, and they'll be discouraged from using the scrape. If you're working in uneven ground, the scrape should extend across the slope, not up and down, so that the water levels can be more consistent throughout the year. Build up the downslope side with excavated material to help water retention, but keep the bund height to a minimum. Once the scrape is created, it will usually need no further maintenance. Only if it becomes too heavily vegetated should it be cleaned out, and this should be timed to avoid the bird breeding season. A small amount of poaching around the scrape is not a bad thing. The animal hoofprints can create niche habitats for insects, and the animal dung is also attractive to insect life. Grazing is also important to prevent the vegetation becoming too dense around the edges of the scrape. If poaching becomes excessive, a simple scare fence to keep out cattle would suffice. Other management which will enhance the benefits of the scrape include low or zero stocking densities in the adjacent field during bird breeding season, controlling large areas of soft rush, and maintaining the soil pH at an ideal level for grass growth. If the soil pH is ideal for grass growth, it's also at the optimum for numbers of soil-borne insects, which will provide adult birds with a better food source.